Hey guys, welcome back to Brian's Mysteries and Adventures on Trail. I hope everyone's having a great weekend so far. And today's case is about a missing hiker, hunter, camper, all in one, in the Oregon area, the Rogue River-Siskiyou National Forest. And the Rogue River-Siskiyou National Forest is in the states of both Oregon and California. And it was, I guess, administratively combined in the year 2004. So now that whole Rogue River-Siskiyou National Forest ranges from the Cascades Range west into the Siskiyou Mountains, and it covers over 1.8 million acres of land, which is pretty incredible. And it's just a beautiful area. I mean, I've wanted to get up to Oregon for so many years now, and next year is definitely going to be the year that I'm up there exploring. Anyway, this area is just a wonderful area for people to go for hiking and camping and hunting. And it's just got vast areas where there's both established campgrounds and all kinds of areas where, you can kind of get off grid. And in this particular case, we're going to be talking about one of those particular cases, because this gentleman in particular was, I guess he was considered a transient, but he did have a job and he just loved hunting. He loved the outdoors. He had grown up, he knew this area very well. And this area is the Prospect area of Oregon. And I'm going to have some various maps because the exact location is kind of a little confusing, but it's between the Prospect and Union Creek area of Oregon. And today we're going to be talking about the disappearance of Robert Michael Bobo. Now, he was 36 years old at the time of his disappearance, and he was working as a woodcutter in his hometown, and he was working there part-time. I guess he had been doing that for years, and he was a very humble guy. He just liked to go out and to enjoy the outdoors and hunt, fish, camp, hike, that kind of thing. And on this particular case, this takes us back to October of 1998, and he had planned this camping hunting trip in this area of the national forest off of this road 700. Yes, it runs all the way through various areas, but somewhere in between the Prospects and Union Creek area of Oregon. And the last reported sighting was, I guess, by some hunters, that saw him being dropped off by a female in a car. And that's all really they reported. This was on approximately 9 p.m. on October 2nd of 1998. And unfortunately, after that sighting, he hasn't been seen since. Now, Robert is a white male. He was last seen wearing a flannel shirt, blue jeans. He's got blonde hair and blue eyes. He's got a tattoo of his nickname, which he went by Bob, on his right bicep. And he's got a surgical scar below his navel and a scar on his lower lip. Robert had picked a very remote area in the Rogue River National Forest at the time, an area that was west of Crater Lake and, like I said, between the towns of Prospect and Union Creek, Oregon. And the day after he was last seen by those hunters, he was supposed to be picked up the next morning, or at least he was supposed to meet up with a friend that next morning. Well, when the friend came to meet him, he got to the campsite and Bob was nowhere to be found. It was like all his stuff was left out. It looked like he had been there, but everything was left out. Even his hunting gear, all of his gear, and most importantly, I know this might sound curious, but his pape cat black hat, which according to his friends and family, he never went anywhere without this hat. I mean, his brother, according to his brother Dennis, he said that he wouldn't even go to the bathroom without this hat, because apparently he had a receding hairline that he was, a little bit self-conscious about, so he always had this hat on. And the hat and all his gear, his hunting supplies, everything. So his family and friend immediately contacted the forest rangers and the Jackson County Sheriff's Office, and they came right out and started an investigation and started a search. And it's important to note that Robert didn't have a car of his own. And being such a remote area, he would have either had to have gotten a ride out or walked out, and they just didn't think that that had been the case. Now, as all these massive searches were going on, The police came to the conclusion that they didn't think that it was foul play, but they didn't think that he left the campground on his own accord. The detective in charge of the case, Detective Dan Hobbs, he suggested that Bob could have left the campsite and suffered an injury or medical emergency, and the other deputies that were investigating the case said that it's definitely very suspicious. Quote, "We don't know what happened, but we don't have any evidence to pursue anything that was foul play related either." The authorities did state that even though he was considered a transient, that fact that he left all his items at the campsite was definitely very unusual behavior. However, since all of their searches, including ground and aerial searches with dogs on the ground as well, found no evidence, they just couldn't pursue any other leads. So his brother Dennis did not like this at all, so he traveled to Prospect and he started doing his own searches. He was looking for anything he could find, various clothing. At one point he said that he was even looking for his remains. I mean, he said that he just went through every possible scenario he could think of. And according to Dennis, the fact that he left this baseball cap behind is all the proof that he needed that somebody killed his brother, because he said that his brother Robert was so obsessed with his hat, like I said earlier, he never went anywhere without it. His brother Dennis also said that Robert was so familiar with this territory, it would have been crazy for him to get lost. And apparently the night before, the night that he was last seen alive, Bob had gone to had dinner and drinks with some friends in Prospect before bumming a ride back to his campsite. And Dennis says, like, well, who would do that? You know, someone coming back with no money, who would just run off to leave town with nothing on them? Which I agree, that would be crazy so I don't think this guy ran off on his own. He was considered a very fastidious outdoorsman. He knew what he was doing. He had been doing this all his life. And Dennis said that his brother Robert would never leave all of his gear behind. And he said that even if he had gone off and gotten injured somehow, he would have probably been able to make his way back at least into an area where they would have found him by now. He says that this whole thing is just beyond sketchy, and apparently he, has gone back year after year after year and looked through different abandoned campsites and all through the different areas, and unfortunately he hasn't been able to find anything. But according to his statements, he isn't happy with the Jackson County Sheriff's Department because he doesn't feel that their statement by saying there's no evidence of foul play, he feels that there's plenty of evidence of foul play. And I can understand where this sort of break happens, because the police can only do so much, and obviously family members are always trying to do everything they can to bring back their loved ones, and I understand that the family members are always going to know much more about their kin than the police are. So the police have conceded that it's definitely very suspicious that Robert left all his gear behind, but they just don't have enough evidence to pursue a foul play lead. That said, it's very noteworthy that Robert was not the only man to go missing under mysterious circumstances that year. He was one of 3 men to go missing in the Rogue Valley forests in 1998, all under mysterious circumstances. And everybody in the town of Prospect was really talking about these cases, and they figured that obviously foul play was involved. And this case to this day still remains unsolved. Nothing has been found. His remains have never been found. In 2014, Dennis's DNA was collected so that they could possibly compare it to anything that they did find. However, all the searches that have gone out since have still come up with nothing. And it's just one of those enduring mysteries, because it's like, what happened to this guy who basically grew up and knew this area like the back of his hand, and he just disappeared into thin air? And if foul play was involved, what would be the motive? I mean, why would somebody want to hurt Robert or do something to him? And why wasn't there any evidence of that? I mean, he was in a very remote area of this forest, so how could somebody have gotten away with it? Granted, there are a lot of other hunters in the area, so obviously it's plausible. Now, I know from researching this case, and according to his friends and family, apparently he did run with a rough crowd, but he was known to be, a good guy. I mean, he wasn't hated on by anybody, and he would just like to do his thing. He worked at his woodcutting job and he liked to spend time in the outdoors. So it's just one of these really, really bizarre cases. I know that they did take the DNA that they got from Dennis, Robert's brother, and they sent that to the state police, and they have that for analysis. So if anything happens in the state of Oregon, I think they sent it to the other states surrounding there too, California and Washington. So if anything comes up, they will be able to, obviously cross-reference it and be able to know whether it's Robert's. And unfortunately, I know that his family is still, looking for answers, and obviously whose wouldn't. And I know that animal predation, if for those of you who were wondering, that was considered, but from the search, they just feel like they would have found something, some kind of evidence. Usually when there's an animal attack, there's a big mess, and there's just evidence of that. Not always, but usually. And unfortunately, Robert Michael Bobo remains missing to this day. But it still is an active investigation. Even though the Jackson County Sheriff's Office believes that it wasn't foul play, they do say that they believe it was suspicious circumstances. So if you have any information regarding this case, please contact the Jackson County Sheriff's Office at 541-774-6800. I'd like to dedicate this video to Robert Michael Bobo, who's now been missing for over 20 years, and just to his friends and family, especially to his brother Dennis, who has worked so hard to keep his case alive and to try and find him, and just hoping and praying that he can be brought home soon to his family and they can get the justice that they deserve if justice is in fact warranted. I want to thank everybody for watching, as always, and as always, please be respectful in the comments if you choose to leave them. Thank you so much to co.ag for providing the background music, and I will see everybody in the next one. Take care. Hey everyone, thanks for sticking with me till the end, and if anyone is still interested in buying a merch calendar, I will have that information in the description. As always, they are $16 via PayPal, or you can send $15 to my Venmo account. And if you're interested in the Halloween giveaway, so I'm going to be giving away one fanny pack for a man and one fanny pack for a woman. They're both ultralight fanny packs. I'm going to talk more about that, but all you need to do is leave a comment in any of these upcoming videos, this one included, that you're interested in being a part of the giveaway, and I will be making those selections on Halloween. The first bucket list destination on today's list is the Hang Sung Dun caves in Vietnam, and these are supposedly the biggest caves in the world, and they formed 2 to 5 million years ago. The second one is Lake Natron in Tanzania, which just looks incredible. I mean, look at this place. It looks like something impossible. It just looks gorgeous. I'd love to go.